Did you get a chance to watch the Chris Rock
I did. I watched
jump off?
I watched about 80% of it, and then I
On
also
TikTok.
saw the end. So I'm missing like a little bit the last third, but then I saw the last joke, obviously.
When I tell you nobody likes my take, what my thoughts were, I mean,
You were live tweeting?
I mean, no. Well, first of all, I live tweeted a little bit because Natalie was sick and asleep. So I was just sitting there, and so I did live tweet a little bit.
Okay.
But then at the end, I actually
Wait, how does live tweeting work? So you got your phone in your hand, you're watching something,
Yeah.
you hear something that you react to, and
Yeah.
you write about it. But when you start writing about it, are you missing what's being said while you're writing?
In that like 10 seconds? Yeah, probably. I mean, that's
You
probably
type fast?
I'm pretty fast. But it is
I don't know.
stupid. I don't get me wrong, it's stupid. But I rewatched it again the next morning because my sister-in-law was watching it. So I heard the whole thing again. And then I formulated my thoughts more and said a couple things. And when I tell you nobody likes me or agrees with me.
Why am I in this is my fault that I'm in a business relationship with you.
Yeah.
Why we can't get off the ground.
I can't help you. I can only hurt you.
What did you say? What did you say? What was your opinions on this thing that has nothing to do with you?
Well, no, but that's what. Listen, I mean, it has as much to do with me as Meghan Markle has to do with Chris Rock. You know what I'm saying?
He's a comedian.
I do a radio show. This is all just me working out my material for today.
Okay.
Listen, the man has every right to do what he wants to do. I thought the middle bulk of the special, I thought was fucking great. Like, he got into his bag when he was in the Kardashian area. I was like, it was prime Chris Rock. I fucking loved it. When he got to the Will Smith part at the end, and I didn't verbalize it like this yesterday, but I've been thinking about it more. It's almost like he felt like he had to go hard. Like this was the only option. He didn't seem like, did he seem happy to you when the special ended? He seemed like he really released something, but it didn't feel good to me to watch. Like, you know when you see someone get into a fight and they're about to cry?
Yeah.
That's how I felt watching it. Like, I could see the pain right there.
From what I heard of people who were there, it was a very emotional moment. Now, here's what I think.
The show or the Oscars? The show or the Oscars?
The show.
Okay.
In the show this weekend. Like, here's the one thing. Here's something weird I noticed about Chris Rock. And it has nothing bad. It's just as a comedian, I notice. It's like, what's weird to me. This is just my opinion.
Wait, who?
Me.
Oh, you.
He works out a lot of his material in the cellar, but then, which is mostly white crowds. Then when he does his specials, it's like extra black. So there's like a difference kind of in, I guess, the reaction of the audience. From what I've seen, a lot of these jokes already for the last year being worked out.
The Will ones too?
I didn't see the Will one, no.
Right. The Will ones,
I think he purposely wasn't doing those.
Yeah.
So it's like, so apparently in the room, it felt like some shit was going down. And like, you can't hear it as well on Netflix, but in the room, the crowd was going crazy.
Crazy loving it or just in shock or a combination?
Loving it. Like supporting him, supporting Rock. So it brought up a different emotion than when he practiced it at the Comedy Cellar. This is told to me by John Lasseter, who's one of the biggest he's one of the hosts of the Comedy Cellar. He always sees Rock, and he went down there.
Wow.
And he said him and Jeff Ross were standing next to each other. And when he was doing that joke, it was like, oh, he's going through it right now. Oh,
they had that same impression.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's how I did feel like he was going through it. And that's the thing. People got really mad at me. I'm not talking shit about Chris. He has every right to do what he's going to do. All I was saying was I'm so dumb and so far off from what the thinking actually was. I thought there was a chance that Will Smith would show up at the special. That's like the WWE in me. I was like, he's going to work it out. He's going to start talking shit. and there's going to be like this uplifting moment. I was not correct in that regard at all. And people thought I was crazy. I mean, not online, people were like, what? People just acted like, I don't know. Don't get me wrong. The slap was terrible. It was a really shitty thing to do. I guess, you know me, I end up flip-flopping because I see how the emotional tide goes. And at first I felt really bad for Chris. And I loved how Chris handled himself. And I think the public generally really rallied to Chris. I mean, I know in your world, Cyph, you know, comedians fucking all rallied to Chris. All,
Yeah.
I mean, I would imagine in comedy circles at this moment, Will Smith is still persona non grata practically. Like, it really seemed like people took to Chris's back. But after a while, I started to feel bad for Will. Like, I was like, this can't be that he was like, he's just a terrible guy who was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to slap the shit out of this motherfucker.
Yeah, but still, no matter what, there's no way to go. There's no way to side with Will on this.
Well, no. Side would be far. What about to have grace or empathy for?
Well, yeah, I have empathy for everybody. Yeah, I get
Right.
that.
Like people, I was just saying it was pretty far. Like I could just tell Chris was desperate to have that moment where he could just say, bitch, he called you a bitch, a bitch, a bitch. He wanted to have that bitch moment really bad. You know what I mean? He needed to get that off. I don't know. I thought it was an opportunity to do something cool. The whole concept of don't fight in front of white people, first of all, I think it's a completely flawed concept. I don't know why people are embarrassed in front of white people. White people act like fools in front of everybody and think nothing of it. But
you're saying very white stuff right now.
I know, no, that's not white stuff.
What you're saying right now is a white man's reaction to that statement.
No, that I believe that whole phrasing is stupid, and it should be.
Yeah,
it makes no sense anymore. It doesn't make sense
to a white person.
Don't act out in front of white people. Do you realize the connotations that exist with that? Why? Who gives a fuck?
A lot of people give a fuck.
I mean, I get it. It just seems like, I don't know. I obviously I've heard the term I've heard the phrasing a gazillion times, and I get it. But then, okay, fine. Let's suppose that is a real way of thinking. What you're doing on the show is completely counter to that. You just destroyed the man in front of the whole world with a year to think about it. It wasn't spontaneous. He built up for a year, and his moment was kind of a tantrum. It kind of amounted to like a 9-minute, I'm going to call you lots of nasty names. Some of it was funny, but it wasn't like the highlight of the show to me at all. I thought it was like,
maybe not the highlight of the show, but it had to be done.
Had to be done. But let me ask you a tough question though. Do you think that Chris would have received backlash had he not gone that way about it? Had he been like, I know all of you think I'm going to do blank, but I'm going to do blank, and did not go so hard? Do you think there would have been negative repercussions to that? And furthermore, more importantly, I just wonder how he would personally feel afterwards versus the way he did it.
About what? About doing that?
Yeah, like I didn't think he seemed like he felt that great about it.
I don't know. I don't know what you're reading. I don't know if you're right. You're trying to read body language or facial expressions or whatever. Like, I don't get into reading people like that. Like, you know,
Right. Were you entertained or nah? Is the question.
Entertained?
Ultimately. Well, no, isn't that what everyone's trying to go for? Yes, in theory, funny, but this one, I think everyone agrees it had more than funny to it. It was about having the right to respond.
The ending.
Yes, the will part, just the will part.
Yeah.
You know, like the Kardashian part was just straight up funny. Him calling Kris Jenner the Statue of Liberty was, I mean, fantastic. But you know what, though? Chris is the example I'm using because we all watched it for a much broader conversation. I honestly don't care one way or the other. Will be okay. Chris will be okay. I think all will be okay. By the way, I do not subscribe to that. I was fighting with Cass 1 today. This whole idea that the reason Chris had to strike back is because his entire legacy is going to be attached to this slap. I think people are being very, very much prisoners of the moment. Chris Rock has been literally a top 3 comic site for what, 20 some years?
More.
Like he's basically a god. He's a completely
since the early 90s.
Like, I don't think in 20 years we're just going to be talking about the Will Smith slap at all.
Yeah, they will. Always, forever.
But how high on the list of things you think about Chris Rock? Right at the top?
Yeah, top
If you're
3.
if you're someone who doesn't know anything about him.
There's a lot. That's a lot of people. If you see Chris Rock anywhere out in public at a restaurant, you're thinking of that slap.
We had a caller that was pretty funny today. He was like, most people liked it and disagree with me, but one guy called up. He's like, nah, bro. He slapped you a year ago and you didn't do anything about it. You didn't do anything. It's over, La. You can't come back and pick the fight a year later. Like, you fucked up.
That's, well,
You like, hold the L. Like, you should have done it right then.
like, I'll tell you that, like Chappelle, something happens to Chappelle and he'll put something out immediately, which I like about Dave, how he'll do that, like one way or another, whether it be an SNL monologue or those little YouTube things that he taped, those little 15-minute things about the Chappelle Show not being on Netflix and stuff like that. I think Chris could have responded by itself much quicker instead of attaching it to a special, because you're going to get the special regardless. We're going to watch it regardless. I could see that person's point of view where he could have responded to this way earlier.
Well, the point that we then likened it to on the show would be like, yo, if there's a fight at the barbershop, if you show up the next day at the barbershop to fight, cool. If you show up a year later, everyone's like, my man, it's over. What are you talking? Like, it's just, you didn't respond. You didn't. And I think Chris played that line.
No, but he's been doing that joke for a while on the road.
Which one? I thought he wasn't doing the Will stuff.
Not the Cellar. He was doing it on tour with Dave.
Because I know my brother-in-law, I think, saw him in Atlantic City and said he didn't do the Will stuff. But that might have been a while ago. Maybe he's picked up. Maybe he started adding that recently.
Maybe he did. Maybe he wasn't doing it. I don't. Dave told me what it was.
Well, listen, I'm going to tell you the truth, and this is not a knock to Chris. This is just my human evaluation. And I'm sorry, you can disagree, agree, whatever you like. He is tight that he did not react. He can say, I didn't react because I was raised right. He's killing himself, and he's angry. Lil Rel did it real. Do you ever watch the Lil Rel bit about it?
Yeah.
Like, how did you not even square up? He was like, if one of my kids comes up to me and I'm not expecting it, I square up. Yeah. Like, I really do think that part ate at him. Yeah. And I think he was listening. He was allowing. Here's another thing about Chris. Let's be real. I don't know Chris well, but Chris goes out. Chris likes to go out. I've seen him at clubs. I've seen him at events. He likes to be out. He likes to be cool. He likes to be loved. And I think he's kind of hearing the chatter of the cafeteria table, people being like, nah, you can't get slapped. You need to fuck him up.
100%.
He wasn't hearing what I was hearing, which was like from people who are not at the cafeteria table yelling fuck him up and being like, yo, man, Chris Rock, bro, he handled that like a pro. He handled that like a fucking
He was hearing that too, but it don't hit you the same. It's different. It's different, like Taco Bell. It hits different.
Right. It hits different. No, you're right. It hits. The other one hits different. Now, you better slap him back.
And also he hangs out with a lot of comics where comics will say the worst shit ever.
Right.
All constantly thinking, something happened. It's funny to us. It's funny to you. I don't see Chris, every once a quarter. So I make a joke about it, but everybody who Chris Rock sees him once a quarter, and that's happening every day. You know what I mean?
Right. And man, you people, when I say you people, I mean, Puerto Ricans.
Yeah.
No, comedians in general, though, you're right. The kind of wild shit they were probably joking about Will to Chris over the last year, like the jokes he said that never made it to the stage,
right,
are on probably such a different level that he didn't think of this as even being that intense.
But also, every time a comedian makes a joke about you better not come on stage, comedians are getting slapped nowadays. I'll kick you in the chest. Like, I've done it. Like, yo, don't Will Smith me. Like, you're saying Will Smith's name, but you're really talking bad about Chris Rock.
So, well, not talking bad, but you're referencing the worst moment of his career, probably.
Yeah.
or the most embarrassing moment of his
You
career?
had moments where you're like, damn, I wish I would have did this. I wish I would have did that. I wish I would have like.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what he wishes he would have done, except maybe been like, you're too shocked to be able to roast him properly. So that's the thing Lil Rel jokes about, that Will Smith does it, and he's like, what was the line he says? Chris's response is like, wow,
I just got.
I just got slapped by Will Smith.
Yeah.
And in his mind, like, I actually thought that was pretty cool at the time. I was like, wait, if this is real, he just handled that like a G. In his mind, he probably wishes he was able to immediately get something off that hit and was cutting right then.
I
But
mean, he held his composure at the Oscars. Also, another thing that people always forget about is that he was presenting an award to Questlove, who's one of his besties. So he didn't want to ruin that moment. You know what I mean?
right.
But he should have like what would Ricky Gervais have done? Like Ricky Gervais says wild shit. You know what I mean?
And if he got
And it's
slapped,
okay, that English accent.
I think he honestly, here's what I think Gervais would have done. I feel qualified to speak on this. I think he would have been like, what the fuck was that? And he would have paused and waited. He would have actually processed it right then. He would have been like,
right.
I did that just, and he would have taken, but like, that's hard, man. I don't know. I might have fucking teared up. I'm like, did I just get slapped? Like, people don't like getting hit in the face. It's a fact.
Especially
It's not
black people in front of white people. See, that's how they are. See,
Who? Oh.
That's what white people say. See, that's how they are.
Tell you what, though, I do think Chris Rock and race is a whole other weird conversation. To your point, Chris has a really big white audience. And he has a really big black audience, too. Really big, both. Like, he may be, is he the most, him and Chappelle, they're like the two most diverse black comedians, audience-wise, no?
It's crazy because, like, yeah, like, and then, like, I don't know. Maybe I'm too close to the situation because, yeah, I always see Rock hanging with a lot of white comics, but then he's like almost like two different. He almost has like the black comedy side and the white comedy side, and it's kind of like not merged almost. It's weird.
It is really, you know what? It's really true.
Because he's super black. His points of view are black. His comedy is black, but it works in the white world.
Well, he got into hardcore nerdy, like the real comedy world, really young. It's been his whole life.
Yeah.
So like, he's palling around with Seinfeld and Louis C.K. like that. He's
like a lot.
No, a lot.
But then his special's bigger and blacker.
Right.
But it's like but I don't know. But Seinfeld was there. Like,
that's what I'm saying. This is always weird. And then, I mean, listen, let's just be honest about it. My man uses a lot of N-word, a lot, relative to very mainstream comics. Kevin Hart ain't giving you that many N-words during the course of a stand-up special. And
Kevin Hart's a different corporate machine, though.
Yeah, totally. That's
Kevin Hart
Kevin may not even curse anymore at all.
Kevin is always like, I don't want to say walking on eggshells, but very cognizant of his relationships and networking and all that shit. Like,
well, especially after the whole gay thing.
What's the gay thing? Oh, yeah.
The old gay jokes that got him. I'm sure. So, but here's the one thing that Chris, the one weird thing, the weirdest race part with Chris to me was always his bit about N-words and black people. I hated that bit because do you know how many white people came up to me and said it was funny? And I was like,
but it is funny.
I know, but white people saying it's funny is like it's almost racist by nature.
No.
If a white person came up to you, just hear me out. White person comes up to you.
Yeah.
They've never
White girl.
Well, no, then they do no wrong. A white guy who sounds like this. And he goes, he never seen a comedy special. He goes, man, I got to tell you the funniest thing. You ever notice what difference there is between black people and N-words?
Wait, quoting Chris Rock thinking it was funny or coming up with the concept on their own?
If he came up with the concept.
It's not, you can't even compare the two.
Wait, are you telling me you wouldn't, if you were hanging out with you love white girls, having sex with them, spending time with them, all of these things.
Counting their tittied freckles.
What? Okay, sure. So you're doing that, and the Chris Rock. Oh, old Chris Rock is on. Which one's that from? What's the first one called?
Bring the Pain.
Bring the Pain. You go, oh man, Chris Rock's on. Let's watch it. And she's white, and her friends are white. You haven't gotten any. They're like, oh my god, who's little Kim? They're white. Okay, I don't know even know why you're hanging out with them.
I like what you're saying.
You are. They're hot though. You wanted to hang out.
Yeah.
Nothing black about them.
Right.
Chris gets to that joke about the difference between black people and N-words, and they start laughing as hard as they can. You're not like this?
Yeah, in that scenario, yes.
So that's why I always took some umbrage with the joke. I was like, felt like it should have, I don't know. White people loved it. Yo, white people thought it was the funniest thing because it gave them the right to think what they think. They were like, oh, yes, I've always known there was a difference. You're not like my friend Kevin from The Office. He's the good one. You know, that's what I feel like it tapped into with racists. Like, I don't know. Anyways, it was, I'll tell you this, though. Are the numbers out yet on how many people streamed it? Because that shit felt like everyone on Earth was watching it.
I know. I don't know. I didn't see, but I was.
And let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Why, Cipha Sounds, was it in Baltimore?
I don't know. I'm gonna just assume that he wanted to do it in a black city.
Not specifically because it's where Jada's from.
I didn't know that's where she's from. And if that is the case, bravo.
Too motherfucking Shay.